Hello everyone. How are you guys doing? I fancied a spontaneous Q&A live stream. Not sure if anyone's about, but if you are, say hi. I'll just wait a couple of minutes to see if anyone's about. Just sip my tea and wait patiently. Oh, here we go. Slurpty derp, Mike. Got me in full screen today. So, how are you, Mike? How was your day? Everything good? How are things over in the States? It might just be a me and Mike one-on-one conversation, which can be fine too. It's good to see you, Mike. What's for dinner? A great question. I've already had dinner. I had actually. It's going to be a bit embarrassing. I had a bit of a, I would say, quite a working class dinner, quite a budget dinner. Wait, what was the main I had actually? Oh my goodness, I've forgotten now what I had. It was oh, that's right. It was a ham casserole. So it's like it's kind of like a little bit like gammon. You know, it's like these big fat like ham steaks. But yeah, it's kind of like almost like a gammon steak, with baked beans and some like creamy spinach. So it's really easy to prepare. I mean, it took me about 5 minutes. I basically microwaved the beans and the spinach, and just fried up the ham for 5 minutes. So it was one of my not my proudest moment, to be honest. But I'm a single man living on my own, so I didn't realise anyone was going to know about it until I've just told everyone on YouTube. But yeah, it was a simple dinner. Very, very tasty though. Still nice. Everything is good here. That's great, Mike. Hello, Greedo. Good to. It's been a while since I've seen you, Greedo. I think normally because I'm live streaming like a bit earlier in the day normally, doing some sort of production live streams like around early afternoon-ish. Maybe that's not when you're online, you know. But it's good to see you again, bro. Let's see your little Yoda face pop up. Anyone got any production questions or anything like that? Feel free to ask. Can be the most in-depth question, like the most ridiculous production question you can think of. I will be able to give you some more thought out answers if there are like more technical questions, you know. So I thought maybe we can do a little bit of a Q&A just for like half an hour or something like that, you know, before I get ready for bed. So if you guys want to ask any production questions, a lot of my students come onto my lessons, you know, one on one, and they've got a lot of questions to ask. You know, they've prepared questions often. So now's a little chance where you can also ask any production questions that you might have on your mind that you think I might be able to help you with, and we'll do this as a little one-off. Good to see you, Royce. How are things? How was your day? Have a productive day. My day's been very productive. I'm not sure why I'm still trying to be productive this late. Actually, it's high tide. I settle down for bed really, but no, you know, I just wanted to connect with you guys really. You know, I wanted to connect with you guys for at least half an hour, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how many of you guys join, how many questions you have. But yeah, fire some questions at me, my G's. If it's not a production question, that's also fine. It can be something else. But there's a certain amount of words I can spit out at the camera talking to myself. But I can keep talking nonsense as well if you want me to. I can just keep rambling on about nothing. I mean, I'm drinking chamomile tea also. Nice thing to drink in the evening before bed, I reckon. Gets you nice and chilled out. Although actually I tend to drink them throughout the day as well. Your mid-side chain tutorial helped me on many tracks, both DNB and guitar rock. That's great, Mike. Good to see that. Yeah, man. I think the mid-side chain. Do you mean the mid-side EQ or the mid? Because that's I think you're sort of talking about two different things there. You can do mid-side chaining and side chaining as well, but that's often quite advanced, and I don't actually ever really have the need to do that so often. But I think you probably mean the mid-side EQ video, don't you? I think because I remember you commenting on that one. But yeah, Mike, it's good to know that you're doing DNB and guitar rock. I bet you can train your ears as a producer and yeah, kind of test your limits a bit in both different genres. You know, I think that's cool, man. Good stuff. Royce is great. Working out of town, but I did finally move in and set up all my stuff back up. I'll be scheduling our next session soon. Just been busy. That's great to hear, man. Yeah, that's great that you'll be back for a session as well. Yeah, always welcome, my bro. And all of you guys on here, you know, you guys are always welcome for production lessons. But if you have any random production questions on your mind right now, then feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer them. It could be about snare layering, could be about bass creation, sound design in general, favorite plugins, top things I wish I'd done differently, top things I wish I'd known years ago. I'm getting there, Big G, trying to combine both, actually. Yeah, that's always a great combination, Mike. Guitar rock and D&B. I actually have a student from Australia who's doing that, and he plays the guitar very, very well. And he came to me on a few lessons, and he was, yeah, we really started to develop his sound. And I haven't heard from him for a while, actually, but hopefully he'll be back. He tends to go off on his little musical journey and then come back to me every month or so, or every other month he'll come back. But he's really working on his guitar D&B sound, so he's really, you know, using the guitar as the main kind of sound in the track, you know, like his recordings, and then basing all of the rest of the elements around the guitar, you know. So he's getting a really, really natural drum and bass sound. It's sounding really, really nice. I hope he keeps going at it. Yeah, maybe he'll get good enough and get a track on the label, and we can upload him on here at some point as well. But he's still learning the production, working on his drums, hopefully. So yes, Microbrute is just a sweet synth in hardware mixing. Is it really now? I've sort of heard about that, but I don't know too much about it, to be quite honest with you. So you probably know a lot more than me about that. I'm not really much of a hardware kind of dude, you know. I do like the hardware stuff. I think it looks cool. It looks amazing. I'm just quite a minimalistic person. I like to have not many possessions, so I can sort of just just sort of go and travel and not be attached to any, you know, too many bits of equipment and stuff, you know. But if I had my own, yeah, like dream studio, I'd love to have some hardware bits, you know. Some hardware compressors and mastering and equipment especially. How about cymbal layering with tambourines or shakers? The fall under the same EQ. Ah, yes, that's a good point, Mike. Yeah, so they'd be roughly in the same area. I tend to treat things like tambourines and shakers and cymbal stuff. I tend to treat those in the same frequency range usually. Yeah, you're thinking that sort of 1K and upwards range, you know. But it just depends on each individual sound, really, because you could have a shaker that's got a lot of mid-range on it, and it might have a lot of mid-range weight in the percussion, you know, and that might be something you want to keep and not EQ out. So the key, really, with when you're talking about drum layers like cymbals or tambourines or shakers, is where is the character coming from in the frequency spectrum, and is it worth leaving that part in if it's lower down, you know? Because if you have a lot of mid-range on your percussions, like on your cymbals and things, they can start to conflict with other mid-range elements in your track, you know, so you have to be careful. And it's a case of always balancing, and it's a trade-off between the character of the cymbals that could be in the mid-range versus, you know, what they could be conflicting with in the mix, you know. So, but you can always do side chaining to sort of balance that out and compose things cleverly. But in general, yeah, the tambourines and shakers and cymbals and things tend to sit around the same, tend to dominate the same area in the frequency spectrum for sure. Just import the firmware and synth worth instead of using plugins. Okay, interesting. I'll try and take a look at that at some point. I know we're not fans of compressing drum groups, but what about compression on bass? Can you talk a little bit about using compression on a bass? Is it always necessary to have a compressor on basses? Yes, so that's a very good question, actually. Yeah, the reason that I don't teach compressing the drum group is because the drum group contains the kick drum, you know, and the kick drum, for me at least, needs to be sort of one of the loudest, you know, fundamental parts of the track and the mix down. So if we're compressing it, we're taking down the peak of that drum group, which is going to be the kick, you know. So we're taking down the kick, which is kind of counterproductive, you know, if you ask me. So that's why I'm not a big fan of compressing the drum group, as you know. But when it comes to the bass, so also the bass, along with the kick in the low end, wants to be very loud and powerful. So again, if we're going to start compressing the bass group, we're going to be turning down the bass. And from the mix downs I try to go for myself, I'm really trying to get really powerful kick and powerful bass together. So I don't really want to be doing it too much. But you can have a little bit of bass compression, absolutely. It can be especially useful if you've got a bass that moves around a lot, around the keyboard a lot, and certain notes will be higher up, might be louder. In that case, a compressor would be really great, you know, because then you can sort of balance out the levels of the bass as the bass is like gliding up and down and going to different, you know, areas on the keyboard. At that, in that respect, a compressor is a good idea because it helps to level out the volumes, you know. Obviously, that on the drums, you know, the kick's always the same volume every time, so you don't have that issue. But in the bass group, definitely bass notes can be louder than others. So in that respect, like the technical use of a compressor can be quite a good idea. But I would only do it just to the point of leveling out the volume a little bit, you know. But I wouldn't like, I don't do this thing of like, you know, really compress it and then turn the output gain up, because that just changes the whole dynamics of the bass. And yeah, a good bass should be sort of loud and powerful enough. And you shouldn't really want to mess with the dynamics too much. You know, a bit of saturation and things like that are great, especially in the higher parts of the bass. But yeah, so I would say it's not necessary to have a compressor on basses at all. And I don't do it myself very often. The only times I'll occasionally do it is in this case when the bass has a very, you know, big variance in its volume. And then a compressor can just level things out nice and automatically. So that's when I would do that, you know. But great question. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. I'm loving it, Royce. Or is that dependent on the dynamic range of bass sounds? Yes, I already answered that. But yeah, that's it. Is there a sidechaining involved? Or is it what sounds good? I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Mike. Is there a sidechaining involved, or is it what sounds good? If you're talking about the symbol layering, not something I would. I don't know if that's what you mean, but if you're talking about sidechaining cymbals and tambourines and shakers to each other, that's not something I do that often. I mean, sidechaining with the cymbals and such, yeah. I mean, it can be really nice to sidechain your cymbals and things to other elements in your track, you know? Like, for example, so I've just got some ocean waves going on in here in my room. Don't know if you can hear it on the microphone, but if you do hear it, any weird background noise, it's me playing some calming ocean sounds. It's that sort of late night ocean feeling, you know. What was I saying? Oh yeah, a great thing to do if you want to do some side chaining with your cymbals. Something I love to do is if you've got them all in a group, like you've got your hi-hats, your rides, your shakers, your tambourines. Maybe they're all in one group, right? You can, for example, sidechain the whole group against maybe your mid bass or part of the mid bass, you know? And ideally you want to do like multiband because that's always going to be a bit more accurate, you know? But you could have your mid bass sort of cutting through the cymbals a bit, especially if it's this kind of bass that's more intermittent, like not a sustained bass, but imagine if you had some mid bass stabs or something, you know? You could like sidechain your sort of cymbals and things to come down for like a bass stab to cut through them, you know, and that can create quite a nice dynamic mix down, you know. And yeah, that's so something that I do quite a lot actually is sidechain all my cymbals and things to my lead elements, you know, to my basses or my leads, and it could even be vocals as well maybe. And you can get these great dynamic sections in a track where, you know, you've got the first 16, it's like really heavy with bass, and so the bass is kind of like sidechain compressing the cymbals all down, so they're a bit lower, you know, but then you roll out into the next 16, and then the bass kind of backs off a bit, and the track becomes a bit more open, and then all the cymbals kind of like come back up because the compressor, like, you know, they're not getting that input from the bass anymore, so they kind of pop back up to their normal volume. So then you have like a more rolling, shuffly drum kind of mix down for like a different part of the track. So it's cool to like toy around with different sort of mix down setups in different sections, because then you create like different dynamic mix down 16 bar blocks almost, you know. So, you know, the cymbals might be more tamed here, but in this section later they're a bit more lively and a bit louder. So yeah, it's all a compositional thing that you can think about, you know. So I don't know if that answered your question. I went on a complete different tangent there, probably. Is there Greedo, how to sidechain the mid range? Yeah, Greedo, it's too late at night for you to confuse me like that. Royce, I'm glad you like the answer. You're welcome. Mike with cymbals and such. Yes, we answered that. Hi, Juki. Good to see you. Looking forward to our next session, my G. Juki the legend, indeed. Juki and Mike are the dream team now in this chat. You guys are the absolute dream team. I do make a track indoor more basic, but I use audio or non-MIDI. Yes, Eargasm. I think you're more of a hardware guy or gal. I love to work in audio, as you maybe have seen on my videos. I tend to bounce everything into audio really, really quickly. I love doing that. I feel a bit more analog in that regard as well. You know, I like to make that big, crazy, massive, not massive, Serum Vital or Phase Plant crazy synth patch. You know, spend ages making it, and then once I like to just bounce it out and like have it in audio and just like delete the delete the patch. Maybe save the patch, but delete the channel. You know, and just have the audio, and then be limited to that. You know, I like that limitation of like, you can't go back to the MIDI. You're only left with the audio, because that I love doing that, because it forces me to always be more of like a sound designer in a sense, or like it forces me to find new solutions and new ways to manipulate audio by like cutting the cord of what I did before, you know. And I feel like I always progress faster and like get to the finish line quicker when I bounce to audio, you know. So I love working in audio, and I love being really cutthroat about just deleting everything that I just previously did and just like moving on with what the audio is now, you know. I think it's like a resampling and never looking back kind of approach that I like, you know. I love using track spacer to just make room for certain frequencies, especially in a subtle way. Yes, Greedo. Do you know what I've noticed about track spacer? Because I've seen many students use it, and I think it's good as well, but I find that it's a bit too aggressive, actually. I know you said make room for certain frequencies in a subtle way. I still find the track spacers like really sensitive, you know? It's like you have the first like 5%, and that's where the kind of sweet spot always is, you know? Like if you go up past 20%, it's already like proper like taking everything out, you know. So track space is good, don't get me wrong, but I prefer like the Waves F6 is definitely still my favorite, or even the multipass with the compressor from Kilohertz, something like that. But yeah, the track spacer works, don't get me wrong. I just find it like to be overly sensitive, you know, when you're sort of trying to find the sweet spot. And I don't know if you can really control the timing on the track spacer, can you? Because the good thing about the F6 is, like with the dynamic EQ sort of compressor like the F6, is you can really control like the speed of the up and down of the compression, and that's really important to get the vibe, you know, or to get the sweet spot as well. So yeah, but anyway, get this, if I have stab basses and sustained hard bass at the same time playing, low frequencies of what bass should stay and what must be cut. I mean, you can't keep the lows of both sounds. Yeah, no, great question. So you've got stab basses with low end and sustained hard bass at the same time. So what I would do is I always think the stab basses, because it's like it's played less often, it's more intermittent, you know, it comes and goes occasionally. So I would prioritize it when it comes, you know. So I would say your main and you can keep the bass in both, but you just sidechain the bass from one to the other one, you know. So I would say you keep your sustained bass as the main one that's always running with all the low end, you know, but then you take out the low end of that sustained bass every time the stab bass hits, you know. So you sidechain the hard do you say the hard bass, the sustained? Yeah, sidechain the sustained hard bass in the low end to duck all that low end out of it when the stab hits, you know, and then you can have the bass from both, just at different parts, you know. So yeah, because if you take out the low end of your stab bass like with an EQ, then it might not sound very good anymore. You might need that bass in it, you know. But you can have both. You just have to sidechain them to each other like aggressively, you know. When you do it with a multi-band though, you can just do the low end sidechained, so you can keep the high end in, and then it will sort of blend together a bit nicer, you know. That's how I would do that. Mike Briggs, nice sunglasses. Always use the audio. Outside. Yes, audio is great. Same here. I don't trust MIDI. I trust audio. Yeah, you can't trust MIDI because I mean, even with Vital and stuff like that, you know, I would never just like have the Vital still running in my project because it just glitches out sometimes. Like it doesn't always. It's not perfect, you know. It's not actually always the same every time. So when you render it to audio, you can see this is the final result and it's staying like that, you know. If there's any clicks in it, you can see it. Any problems in the audio, you can see like what's going on. So yeah, man, we love audio because you can just, you've set it in stone. It's like in concrete. It's not changing. You can see what's up in the spectrum, and you're forced to move on and get on with it, you know. So we love audio over here. And audio as well, the producer. He is, who I met actually. He's a great guy. I met him in the Netherlands. I supported him as one of my favourite events. He is the king of bouncing to audio as well. And I love his production method in that respect. And I mean, his tracks are great, right? Have you ever produced rock type tracks? I've not done like a proper rock track, Mike. No, I would love to do that. You know, I need someone to headhunt me and be like, you're a great producer. Let me pay you to produce this rock track for me. And I'll be like, yes, let's do it. I'd love to do that. It's just not really, yeah, it's not really come my way in life yet, you know, but I'd love to do that at some point, mix a rock track, work in a real studio. If I had the opportunity to do that, I think it'd be a lot of fun. Copy and copy more or less tech. Commitment can be good. Yes, Greedo, I think so. You turn me into an audio guy much easier than using MIDI. Yeah, it's good, Mike. It's good, Mike. You can just move forward quicker that way, you know? Why my ears should never be sweet spotted. I agree, track spacer. It's very sensitive, tricky. Yes, I've not got the track spacer, but I've just seen when my students are using it and I'm trying to help them find the sweet spot. I'm like, oh shit, like it's really, really sensitive there, isn't it? Like, no, this, no, a little bit left, little bit left, little bit left, little bit left. Yeah, I kind of prefer like the Waves F6, as I mentioned. It feels a bit more like balanced in how it sort of, how the interface, you know, works with the side chaining. But it does, your track spacer does do the job though, you know, so feel free to keep using it, of course. Real hardware Cluedo with live synths, amen. The full, there are different sorts to save it. Okay. Do you keep the MIDI tracks in case you want to edit later, or just play it again if you need to? Yeah, so this is the thing, RJB. This is the thing, what I have, how I've evolved in my production journey is I am ruthlessly deleting stuff. It's kind of like it's kind of like self-sabotaging, rebellious like attitude. So I used to keep the MIDI tracks as well, and sometimes I'll save the project with the MIDI in, and then I'll just, you know, save it as a separate version, and then I can just go back to that previous version of the project, you know. So really I'll do that a lot of the time, you know. It'll be in a project backup if I really need to get back to it. But generally speaking, when I produce a track now, I'm like ruthlessly deleting the MIDI like straight away and just pretending that it didn't ever exist, you know. And yeah, it's just a bit of a ruthless way of producing, and I just prefer that because it, as I said before, it's just like sort of cutting that safety net, and it's forcing you to have to go forwards, you know, because you should really be good enough, or you should get to a stage where you're good enough where you know that you've got the MIDI right and that you don't need to go back to it, you know. You should like, I mean, maybe like you want to do another melody, a different melody later on or something, then maybe you haven't finished writing the whole MIDI. But once you've finished writing the MIDI, like you should kind of be happy with it and just ready to move on with it, you know, and not look back. So yeah, for me it's about basically doing the MIDI and like deciding there and then that that's the final take and then moving on. So once I decide it's the final take, I don't really ever have a reason to go back to it anyway, you know? Because what I have seen is some students, they will have like still all of the MIDI in their track, you know, and then your whole project gets really cluttered with loads of things that you're not using. So again, in my production approach, I delete everything now that's not being used, and like even the channels that are like muted, like I would just delete them, because it's just a ruthless way of working. Really, I just like to have for me, it's more freeing to have the most the least amount of channels and things in the project. So I want the least amount of clutter, like at all times. So yeah, I don't save it personally. No. I mean, as I mentioned, it will be in a project backup if I really need to revert to find it. But at like my stage in production and in my journey, I just don't have the time to go backwards when I'm producing a track. It's like a 0 to 100%. Like, it's not a straight line. It kind of wobbles a bit, you know, in the progress. But I'm never like going to go backwards to change something like that, because I wouldn't really have enough time to, you know, because the track needs to get finished. So, yeah, it's just like getting confident with making those decisions, and then just moving on and getting the track finished, you know. That's why I'm so ruthless with it, just as more of a time thing, really, you know. But yeah, if you're being paid by by Universal or something to write the hit record of the year, and you've got the whole year to write the song, then maybe you want to save the MIDI and go back and do some different versions. But for me, when I'm like writing drum and bass, it's pretty much like get the track done while I've got the time to do it. And as quickly as possible when I've got the time. So that's why I just tend to write quite ruthlessly like that. But yeah, just played my analog keyboard. Oh, hang on, helps me sleep better. Yeah, difficult to sleep when you've deleted your MIDI, isn't it? Less cluttered for the eye. Yes, exactly. It's great to have a less. The less channels in my projects, is like more mental bandwidth, you know, in my head, my brain. I think my brain has become my door over these sort of 15 years I've been using Logic. I'll come back to your question in a moment, RJB. Mike says, I'll do the same with MIDI, reuse the same MIDI and make it audio when I'm done. Yes. We both said cluttered almost in unison. Cluttered. Well, that's kind of delay, isn't it? Not unison, but there you go. DJ Juki, which of your own tracks is your favourite? That's such a good question, my friend. And I was thinking about that recently. I'm actually really proud of all the tracks that I've written in the like over the sort of about 12 or 13 years that I've been writing music. And at the moment, I actually really prefer to listen to my really older tracks, like the ones I did like 10 years ago. So, yeah, I actually think some of the tracks that I wrote like 10 years ago are like my best. Maybe it's just because they're kind of, they feel more classic to me. So it's really difficult to pick a favorite, but maybe like something like, Dystopia, or Disconnected was a great one when it came out, because that one was one that really accelerated my sort of DJ career a bit when that was signed with Bad Taste. So Disconnected was cool. Surveillance as well was a great like milestone for me. That was my first signing with like a decent label. So Surveillance maybe. But yeah, there's been a lot of cool tracks. There's one called NN1 as well, which is still an absolute ridiculous tune. Yeah, I was just listening back recently to my really old tracks, and I was like, some of these are like ridiculous. They're so different to like my recent ones, you know. But I like to play those out. I played a few of my really old ones out, like at the most recent rave I played at, and it was pretty good actually. I played that NN1 as like the second track. I played Massacre and then NN1, like both tracks that are like 13 years old, and I just started with those, and it was like a great vibe. Oh yeah, I really like that. So it's quite nice to just listen to my really old tracks, really, because I just can't believe it's been so long, you know. Um, but if a new one, um, I don't know if I had to pick a favorite of my newest tracks. I mean, I still think my latest one, Marauders, is one of my favorites as well. I think that's got a really nice bass hook in it. Yeah. So cool. Thanks for the answer, RJB. What version save of your tracks is the point where you get to the mixdown final? How many visits to the session? Yes. So when I get to the like end of the project is sort of all composed, I'll tend to make a stem version next. So that's kind of the next thing I do is I create like a stem project, and I'll just take like I'll maybe just do like four. I'm currently doing one. It's got like 4 stems. So when I get close to the end, I'll like bounce out drums, bass, vocals, leads, atmosphere and effects, something like that, like 5 stems maybe. And then I'll have a little mix down on those as like a little stem mix, you know. So what I tend to do, RJB, is like I just reduce the amount of tracks until it's just one. You know, that's how I always think of it, and it applies to how my mindset with bouncing to audio, because it's like, you know, you start off with a load of different sounds, different layers and stuff, and it's like you're gradually bouncing down to like less and less channels until you're left with one, which is the master, you know, or the pre-master, you know. So yeah, when I get to that end point of the mix down, I will just start consolidating my groups into audio as well. So yeah, like drum audio, bass audio, until I've just got like a few channels left. And then, because then it like looks super clean in my DAW, just like 4 channels, you know, and I can do a little bit on that as well with the mix down. And it's quite refreshing to have just the stems and just do like a little bit of EQing on the drums or a little bit of EQing, you know, on the bass or something. So yeah, I'm like, oh, that's how I work, you know. I just keep condensing and condensing, like condensed milk, you know. I keep condensing everything down until there's just one pre-master left at the end, basically, you know. That's kind of how I work, you know. So my last project is not the whole one with everything in it. You know, I've already like bounced stuff down as I've gone along. So that's how I work, you know. I find it easier to finish a track that way. Right, good to see you, brother. What other genre would you make other than DNB? It's a good question, right? I was making some lo-fi. I went through a bit of a lo-fi phase last year. I tried my hand at that. It was quite fun. I kind of got bored after about a month or two, but I had a good month or two of just making like lo-fi. That was quite interesting. I was just taking some old breaks, like some old sort of jungle breaks and stuff like that, and just slowing them down to like 60 BPM or whatever, or 80 BPM or something stupid. Just like you know, slow motion breaks, and then just like, yeah, they just sound like really weird when they're so really, really slow, you know, and then just put some like Rhodes piano over it or something, and a bit of a sine wave underneath, some random Foley sounds. That's quite fun. So yeah, a bit of lo-fi. But what else would I make other than DNB? I've tried, man. I've tried so many times to make other stuff. It just ends up being Neurofunk. Do you know what I mean? Like I've been trying to do other genres for years, mate. You don't realise I'm trapped in a Neurofunk vortex, do you? my brain is like a neurofunk brain, so whatever I do will just go back to neurofunk. So it's not really much point fighting it, you know. I mean, yeah, I'll try and do some deep and dark DNB and like abstract DNB or a bit of jungle shit, you know. But really, when I'm like getting down to it, it just ends up being neurofunk again, or something of that kind, you know. So it's not really much I can do about it. Mix 28, 8 final, officially final, absolutely final. No, seriously, end of mix. Yes, Greedo, that is actually how my projects will. That is, I save loads of versions like that, you know, and it's always like, what is it like? Well, it's like mix down version 1, final composition, then like pre-master, stem project. And then when I'm in my final mixdown stage, I'll do like bass boost, where like I realised I needed to boost the bass, and I had saved a new version with the bass boost. And then it's like drum para. Like I've done that. I've had to do a parallel layer on my drums because they weren't powerful enough, you know. So I'll do like these tweaks in the project, and I'll like rename it like that, and then I can listen to my different versions at the end. Because yeah, when you get to the end, when I get to the end of the process, like I'm on it now with a tune, and I'm like, okay, it's like the last refinement from like 95% to 100% takes a bit of time, you know, because you've got to like keep tuning the mix to get it right. So that last 5% is a killer sometimes, and sometimes I'll be like, yeah, having to do new like parallel layers on my groups or stuff like that to get more audio out of them. So yeah, it can end up being at least 30 or 35 different project versions by the end of it, you know, all differently named with the different processes I did at each point. Do a set with the microboot while I listening. Yeah, I'm still not really sure. I'll have to check that out. How will DNB sound after 10 to 15 years? Will there be a retro revival wave similar in your opinion? Thanks. Oh, that'd be cool, yeah. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? A little retro revival. I think that'd be nice. Get some like old school. I think we've got to go back in that direction. Like some old school upbeats, tunes, some old school face tracks. That kind of like just dark and gritty, drum heavy, neurofunk just with Reese's, and like nothing too fancy, just like a lot of distorted drums and Reese basses. I hope we go back to that. Those will be the days. When I DJ out, I always played some classics as well. When I played recently in Berlin, I dropped a bunch of old tunes, like like some 90s, some 2000s, and I love that older retro D&B bangers. I love them still. I listen to them a lot. So yeah, I don't think those kind of tunes will ever die. So audio core. Yes. Will you be doing any more YouTube collabs with Stranger or Glitch? I haven't talked to Stranger for ages, actually. He's really, really cool, actually. I was writing with him on Instagram a little bit here and there. But he's busy doing his thing. I'm busy doing my thing. Yeah, when you get on YouTube and you're doing that, you're trying to do that as your full-time thing, you know, sometimes it's... sometimes setting up the collabs is can be like quite tiring. You know, like because you've got to coordinate with their schedule, and they've got their upload schedule, and you've got your one, and with other people collabing is it's cool when you can set it up, but it's just sometimes it's just sometimes just the hassle of setting it all up is just a bit time consuming, you know. But I mean, it would be great to do another collab with Stranger. I would definitely be up for that. He's definitely a cool guy. Very nice guy. Um, yeah, there's a bunch of other content creators, that could be good for collabs as well. I actually want to do more, bring more people on from my label and from my Discord or whatever. I want to bring people, that are in my community on the channel more. That's really what I want to do. Some more podcasts with artists on the label, So that's really the next thing I would do if I was doing more collabs. It would be sort of with artists on the label. That's more like we got more to talk about in that respect, Yeah. Have you tried the new Massive X from Native Instruments? The new free version? No, I haven't actually. Maybe I should get that. Gets to a point when you have so many synths already, and you're like, yeah, I'm already overwhelmed with Serum 2 at the moment. But yeah, I actually have a student who's using the original Massive still for his jump up, and I was like, he pulled it up in a lesson, and I was like, mate, I couldn't believe it. People still using the original Massive, and yeah, my G was like, yeah, I can't get the sounds I want in other synths. I've got to use the original Massive. I was like, well, fair play, but don't expect me to help you with that because I mean, I don't know, use the scrapyard wavetable, and that's all I can really suggest. But yes, I hate to be that guy, but those tunes still hold up. Yeah, they do. What's one of your favourites? Write down. Everyone, write down one of your like absolute favourite classic DNB tracks from like early 2000s or something like that. The bass expansion also free is awesome. Cool. RJB. Just had to rewind because of real life. But hear that about going back years. Got folders from 2K5, 2K6 and love some of those. Feels like you're ahead of time. Is the NN1 a reference to Northampton? No, it's a reference to what was it referenced to? I think it might have just been like the project name or something like that. The track NN1 was like it was about War of the Worlds. I used a sample from War of the Worlds in it, and I think NN1 might have just been like the project file name or something. I think I was just trying to be funny. Noisier Concussion, yeah, that's a banger. That's a great one. Bad Company. Bullet Time. I can't remember Bullet Time. Yeah. Well, there's a Ronnie Size. Wasn't the Ronnie Size one called Bullet Time as well? Or no, was that something? That's called something else, isn't it? Bite the Bullet. That's one. That's the one I mean. That's the one I played out. Was Ronnie Size Bite the Bullet. That's a banger. It's got a real like nice espionage vibe on it. But yeah, the Bad Company Bullet Time. I'm sure I've heard it. I just can't remember off the top of my head. Buck Rogers. Buck Rogers. Yes. Dookie, that's one of the best ones in the world, that one is. You've probably you've opened Pandora's box with that tune there. Messiah Conflict. Do you know what? Obviously the Messiah, I mean, if we're talking scripture, then obviously then Jesus is the Messiah, right? In the Christian faith anyway. And so I played the Messiah when I was in when I DJ'd in Israel like a few years ago. Was it 2 or 3 years ago? Yeah, man, that was dope, man. Like I'd just been to Jerusalem. I'd just been to like see all the sites, like the Nativity Church where Jesus was supposed to have been born, and went to like the Dead Sea, and all these like biblical places, like in Jerusalem the first few days, and then took a train to Tel Aviv, rocked up and played like a Neurofunk show, and like Messiah Conflict was my opener, bro. I was like, yeah, this is just the vibe for Israel, mate. That was a crazy, crazy night, man. and that was the night. That was the night before the October 7th, before it all kicked off over there. You know, I was there DJing like the day before, and I flew out basically on that day. I DJed 2 nights before, and I flew out the next day, one day before the October 7th. You know, my flight was on October 6th, so it's crazy, man. I got home, and the next day everyone was texting me like, "Are you all right? You safe? You safe?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" Looked on the news at what had happened, and I was texting my mates from the night before down at the club in Tel Aviv, and they're all down in bomb shelters, mate. Yeah, they're all hiding in bomb shelters and bunkers. And like one day ago, I was over there partying with them all. It was crazy, man. I felt really, yeah. I actually cried that day. It's like one of the first times I'd cried for ages. I was just kind of overwhelmed with it all, you know, because I came back and all this had happened, and I was like just there, and I just like burst into tears. Yeah, it was horrible, you know, because I obviously, if you're not over there, if you've not been there, you see it on the news. It looks horrible, and it's like, you know, rough what's going on, you know. But because I'd just literally been there, it was like proper close to home. So like when I saw it on the news, I just started crying, man. It's the first time I cried for ages. Yeah, it's crazy, man. But yeah, that was an epic adventure though, going to Israel like before that all started. The Angels Fell, Dillinger. I need to check that one out again. I don't remember that. But yeah, Dillinger, Madman. Recently discovered a Klutz Traffic C4C remix. Oh yeah, Cause for Concern. They were great, weren't they? Sadly a lost dub, but what a tune, goddamn. Gaslight is one of my favourites. Do you know what Gaslight was based on, Mike? That was based on a Led Zeppelin tune, actually. I wonder if you can figure it out. This is going to be your homework, Mike. See if you can figure it out. But when I wrote Gaslight, I was heavily influenced by one Led Zeppelin track, which I was listening to the riff, and I was like, I want to do a riff that's a bit like this in drum and bass form. See if you can guess which one it was. Ed Russian Optical Gas Mask remix. Yes, that sounds just like my vibe. Definitely. Bronx is another great track. Glad you like that one, Mike. Yeah, that was a bit of a yeah, I like producing that one. It was a bit of a weird one for me. It's a bit of a more, I don't know, a bit more of a chilled out vibe. But yeah, that was a cool tune to write. Yeah, I actually wrote that for one of my patrons, and then he left. Yeah, one of my patrons was a real legend. He was from New York, and he was like a mechanic, you know. And he sent me like a care package of like different stuff from America, like his barbecue sauce and like I can't remember what else he sent now. Just like random bits of food and like candy and, you know, silly little edible stuff from the USA. He sent me this box over just for me to enjoy, you know. So I was like, you legend, mate. So I wrote this song I was kind of like inspired by, because he was like a mechanic, and I was like imagining like the life of a mechanic, like commuting through New York every day. And so I was like getting all the Foley sounds from like New York subways and stuff like that. That's kind of how I made that Bronx track, you know. And I dedicated it to him, and then he left my Patreon. Yeah, man, the night before October 7th, that was when I was there. Yeah, man, that was crazy, man. I've been in bare like places where conflicts had broken out like just after I left. Like I was in Ukraine as well, like only maybe a couple of months before it started over there. Yeah, like I've been quite lucky with my travels that I've gone to some places that where you wouldn't really want to go now, but I kind of went there just before things got too heated, you know. I've been quite lucky with that. Enough selector stretch. Actually, though, this is even crazier though. I got invited to play a show in Iran, you know, and I ended up not going because it's too risky, you know. But this was before the Iran and Israel started going at it for like 12 days or however long it lasted for. But it was like just before. It was like only about a month before that I got invited out to go and play in Iran, and I was like, this this seems. I like danger, but this seems a little bit too much. And I was considering going actually. I was like gonna go, but then there's a guy here in Berlin who's from Iran, and I kind of knew through like some people at the old church I used to go to, and I asked him, I was like, do you think it's safe for me to go? And he was like, definitely not. He was like, no, do not go to Iran right now. Like they're on the brink of war. I was like, okay, just for a little drum and bass and then back again. He was like, nah, don't do it, man, don't do it. So I didn't. I took his advice and I didn't do it. And then like literally about 3 weeks later or something, they broke out into conflict. So I was like, okay, good decision then. Could have been stuck over there, get detained or something. But yeah, man, been some crazy places though. Enough selector, stretch and ride. Is that one of your tunes, Ride? I figure it out, Big G. Yeah, you better figure it out, Mike. It's one of my favourite Led Zeppelin tracks as well. The one that inspired Gaslight. Thanks for the answer about low end, bro. No worries. Good to help you out. Hope it helps you. Yes, my G's. Anyway. Hope you guys are all doing well on your production journeys as well. Really grateful to be able to have you guys as a little community and chat with you guys. I could do this every day, you know, just talk nonsense with you guys, connecting with my digital family here. It's wonderful. Who are your biggest influences in Neurofunk? Oh, now DJ Juki's got the good questions, man. He's got the good questions. All right. Actually, one of my biggest influences is Mephius, definitely, from back in the day. When I was first getting into Neurofunk, it was Noisier, Mephius, Face. They're probably the main three. Upbeats as well. Yeah, I wasn't really influenced by audio, I wouldn't say. Although I like him a lot as a person. He's really cool. Yeah, honestly though, it's quite a blatant answer. Like it's pretty much Noisier, Mephius. Those two really were like when I was getting into it, they were the ones that were making the waves, and they were the ones who I was like, oh my goodness, I want to do tunes like that. So yeah, I was a big fanboy of Noisier and Mephius. It was Program that was one of the first tunes that got me well into Neurofunk. Noisier and Face Program. That was an absolute banger. And then yeah, shortly after that, Mephius came around with his, like, he had just a ridiculous output of tracks. What was it, like Blitz and oh yeah, like with Inside Info as well. Inside Info, can't forget him either. Yeah, like Mythos and there's some other banging Mephius tracks. Saturate, was that one of them? Yeah. There's some really Abandoned. Yeah, he's really old funky ones. I like that. And yeah, all the stuff he did with Inside Info. But yeah, you're a bit older there, Juki. Yeah, yeah, I'm a bit of more of the younger Neuro generation, you know. So yeah, it was more those kind of second wave. Is it second wave Neuro guys? Yeah. Those still my faves. Mephius, Noisier, Face and Upbeats. Yeah, I don't really listen to them much anymore. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I rinsed them so much, and then I sort of, you know, started producing stuff like leaning towards that style or trying to lean towards that style. That, yeah, I don't really listen to them anymore, to be honest. But but I've listened to them so much in the past, you know, so they're still well in my memory all the time. But yeah, Bad Company, Ed Rush and Optical. I love Ed Rush and Optical. I saw Optical play once in Maidstone in Kent, like one of the first sort of raves I went to. Like, actually, that's a lie. I'd been to loads of raves before then, but yeah, when I was quite younger though, that was cool. I remember he walked in with his gangster hat on. I was like, "How are you going to DJ with that hat?" But I think he took it off when he was playing. But yeah, I don't think I've seen Ed Rush live before. I can't remember now. But yeah, definitely seen Optical live. And yeah, I don't remember. I think I spoke to Ed Rush. Yeah, a little bit. I can't really remember now. But yeah, I'm quite tight still with BTK, Vinny BTK. So I was because I was on his label and I was on Optive's label as well. So I've been quite connected with Optive and BTK during the years. So those two are legends. Yeah, they're part of the Virus crew as well, innit? But yeah, I was kind of always more talking to them two rather than Ed Rush and Optical. At least when it comes to Neurofunk. Not long found you. I'm more of a Liquid guy, but I've been loving the content and the tips feedback you give. Glad I stumbled on the channel. Yeah, great to have you here, RJB. More than welcome. I can do some more Liquid tutorials and stuff as well. Like, I'm not an expert with Liquid, but I do know a few things. I've occasionally done some Liquid kind of videos. Like, haven't really ever produced and finished like a Liquid track. It's not really my thing, but I do like listening to Liquid though. I love listening to it. I don't know if I'm that really great at making it, you know, or I feel like I'm not really adding much value when I'm doing it. So, but I love listening to Liquid. Don't get me wrong; it's one of my favourite genres still. So I teach a lot of people who do Liquid. A bunch of my students, especially this guitar guy I was talking about. He's a complete Liquid head, you know, and we're developing a really great Liquid guitar sound. Noisier was my fave though. Yeah, Noisier, man, definitely. They got me through uni. There was Split the Atom was the album that was out when I was studying at uni. That was an absolute banger. That whole album. Wasn't Atomics, was it? Oh, what, the rave? It could have been. I can't quite remember the name now. DJ Juki, remember Ed and Optical playing at Movement before they dropped Wormhole? It was crazy. Oh yeah, Wormhole. That's a banger, isn't it? That one. The Hardware nights at the end. Yes. Yeah, I was really lucky to get one of my tracks on Renegade Hardware. So that's one of my biggest achievements in the industry side of DNB things. You know, that was I was on a collab with a producer called Trillo, and it was his EP actually on Renegade Hardware. But I was on it, and I got a vinyl as well, so I had my own little vinyl press of me on Renegade Hardware. So I was pretty happy at the time there. But that was back in the day. I used to really care about labels and stuff. You know, I don't really care about that so much anymore. I just like to sort of connect. I just like to release music, you know, myself or through my label, and just connect with the listeners. Really, like I'm not really big on this whole like, you know, getting on labels for clout thing. Like I'm not really a big fan of that, to be honest. You know, but back then I was clout chasing a little bit, to be fair. Yeah. Then the Lord turned my life around, so. But yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with getting on a good label, definitely. So yeah, it was great to get on Renegade Hardware back in the day. Wild times. Just playing the synth while listening. Mephia's Uneasy, yeah, that was a nice one. The way it's mixed and sound designed. Yes, 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 yes. There's also a tune he did with Inside Info. Was it called Repentance? I think it was. I love that one. Like really like deep and dark, like little roller. It's like really unexpected for them too. But I love. It was like a B-side, you know. But I like that one. Leipniz, was that another one they did? That was a banger, wasn't it? They did loads of bangers together. Yeah. I went to the end a bunch of times. Hardware nights were always off the hook. Mate, that's great, man. That was probably before my time, or I was probably like 15 or something, maybe. Yeah. I was still sneaking into some raves underage, but it wasn't. I never went to the end, though. Liquid is a bit of a crap term now. Should really say sample-based rather than synthy stuff. Liquid is really when Swerve was a thing at the Velvet Rooms. Changed a lot since. Did Clayton pay you? What, do you mean Clayton from Addictive Behaviour? Do you know him, do you? I was like, Clayton, I remember that name. Yeah, liquid is liquid such a broad term, isn't it? It's difficult. When people say liquid, there's so many, like, there's really cheesy synthy liquid, and then there's like really nice natural musical instrumental liquid, isn't there? So it's such a wide range. It's difficult to. It's an easy, like, you can easily get negative connotations on that word, can't you? Liquid. You can kind of, yeah, associate it with really terrible DNB as well sometimes. But yeah, yeah. If you're talking about, oh, Clayton from Renegade Hardware. Ah, right. Sorry. There was another Clayton I worked with from another label as well. I wasn't actually sure that. I think I've heard of that Clayton, but I've not really spoken to him. I don't think I've just when I was signed with Renegade Hardware, it was all done through Trillo, who was the other artist. So everything went through him really. It was all he put me on and organised everything. So it's all props to Trillo really. And I didn't want any money off him anyway. It was his EP. I don't think I even asked him for any money off it. That was just me just contributing to his EP because he asked me to be on it, and I was like, yeah, sure, man. I didn't really want to. I didn't want money for that, A very old term, intelligent DNB. Yes, that is a good genre though. If that means, if you can associate like logical progression and LTJ Bookham and that kind of stuff with intelligent DNB, then that's my favourite. That is my favourite. I listen to that album like, no joke, sometimes like every day of the week. Like it's literally my favourite album, man. Logical Progressions level 1 or level 2, whatever it is. With like Saber and LTJ, and there's a bunch of unknown artists I never heard of, but the mix of that album is so nice, man. Yeah, do you guys know that one? The Logical Progressions, so good. It's like just the perfect music to jungle and chill. Awesome one, Repentance. Yeah, Repentance is a banger. Also like the Russian guys like Magnitude and Me One. Not the mixed quality per se though. Yeah, I nearly hooked up with Magnitude in Georgia because they live in Georgia in Tbilisi, and I was there for a couple of months actually, or about 2 months in Georgia. I was living there for a bit and just just teaching and working on my YouTube channel and doing some content and stuff. And Magnitude was over there and they was like trying to get me to meet up for a drink. I don't know why I just kept blowing them off really. I was just sort of really busy doing other stuff, I didn't end up meeting them. But next time I go out there, I'll definitely meet up with them though, because they're cool. They got sick music, Old Rusty K and James Overtech, isn't it? I think. Yeah, they're cool guys. They invited me to come and have drinks with them and stuff. I don't know why I was blowing them out. I was just doing other stuff. But I'll meet him next time I go there though. There's an unreleased one. Mephius and Bill and Scorpion. Is that really unreleased one? How do you know about it then? That sounds great. Was it a Patreon one or something? Or the queue at the end was ridiculous. Went round the building 7 times on a busy night, mate. That is mad. That sounds like it's worth it though, eh? Okay, my shift is over and I'm out of here. Great chat session. I've learned a thing or 3. Great to see you, Mike. Take care. LTJ is a genius. Absolutely. Yeah, that's intelligent. Those progression sessions will never age. They're so good, aren't they? They put so much. Sounds like they put so much time into the drums, like just a ridiculous amount of time into like making those breaks. It's just like the break just never stays the same the whole way through. Like how long must it take to program that? You know, so sick. Love it. LTJ Bookham is. Oh, I've read that already. Peace out, Mike. That's the goal for a lot of us in Liquid now. Just getting Danny to play your stuff. Getting tracks signed. Yes. What, Danny Bird? Or Danny Boy? The Drunk Saw. Yes, Rusty K. Yes, Rusty K is one part of Magnitude. Yeah. Take care, GC90X1, musical and hard. Yeah, I think that's good for today anyway. It's 10 o'clock, so I'm going to slowly get ready for bed anyway. So yeah, it's been great to catch up with you guys and answer a few of the questions. Just hang out, talk about DNB, talk about production. Yeah, man. Danny Bookham. Yes. Okay. Okay, Danny Bookham. I got you. All right. Yeah, good to hang out, guys. You guys have a blessed rest of your evening. Catch up with you guys soon. More on the channel coming. Tutorials and things like that. So, yeah. Great to see you guys. Take care. And yeah, we'll do this again if you think it's cool. All right. Much love, everyone. Bye-bye.